Hi, my name is Nathan, and today we're going to do a comic book review of the greatest Ninja Turtle story ever told, which is The Last Ronin, issues number 1 through 5, the full story, brought to you by Rated Comics. If this is your first time here, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to this channel. It'll help Rated Comics to make more comic book reviews and comic book related content like this. Timestamps will be in description if you wish to go from issue to issue. Last but not least, link in description if you wish to purchase any of the comic books, if not the entire comic book set in this video. Support the art, support the industry. With that being said, let's get to it. Here's my history with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't have much readings in their comics. Here's what I do have. Saturday morning cartoons. I remember every Saturday morning waking up to watch TMNT, and my favorite turtle is Michelangelo, just because he's like, I don't know, he's such someone you want to hang out with, you know? Going into this comic, compared to how the turtles are, completely different 180 shift, and I loved it. We start off with this random turtle. I don't know which turtle it is. I don't know who it is. Going through this sludge, infiltrating this city. When this turtle gets there, he makes a comment like, this barbed wires and cameras, it's designed to keep people in, but not to keep people out. Throws ninja stars at the camera and then climbs over the fence and goes into like the lower east side of Manhattan. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is different. It's like, where are the other turtles? He's talking to them, but it's almost like they're in the shadows. And it's interesting. It's kind of mysterious. He knows he has to get to the top of that building right there. Steals a bike, and this girl named Jones is alerted of that this turtle stole her bike. And I'm like, Jones, does that have anything to do with Casey Jones? This turtle is kind of reckless. I'm like, who is this freaking turtle? Is this Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael? I mean, he's got heart like Leonardo, and also anger like Raphael. Not necessarily the smarts like Donatello, but like the carefree just of Michelangelo. I don't know which turtle it is. Then he uses the bike as a diversion to make this truck explode, and he's like, oh crap, I need a little bit of luck to what I'm doing. I thought I had a plan. And gets into this tower. We see this scene with Shredder's grandson. I cannot think of the name right now. Oroku Hiroto. In the process of this turtle fighting, it turns out he's fighting like enhanced cyborg Foot Clans, it seems like. Cool. Now, he knows in order to attack, he has to attack head on. I'm like, that's ballsy right there, to attack head on, to infiltrate. Usually you want to divert, you want to, go around, you want to go underneath, but to go head on, okay. Ballsy. And he's taking out these robot cyborgs with ease. And even though he made comments of, hey, they got fast, they got strength, but one thing they lack is sheer willpower. And he just takes them on, annihilates them. Okay, this turtle's out for vengeance, but while he's out for vengeance, he's not sloppy with this stuff at all. The plan's sloppy, but he's just taking everything out like in his way, like, get out of my way. Got things to do. He makes this threat to, Shredder's grandson, like, I'm coming for you, and then Shredder's grandson's like, oh damn it, and reaching it, I thought they should all be dead. So this fight breaks out. He keeps going like, this is a class. I'm like, right away, I'm sold. This book is classic. This book is super, super classic. When he goes after this big robot that comes charging at him, and this turtle cannot stop him because he has too much momentum coming at him, tackles him out the window like Ray Lewis, and just lands face first on the ground. Turtle escapes. Jones is there. Jones distracts the cyborgs, like, hey, if you're looking for that, for the intruder, it went that way. But meanwhile, Jones follows the turtle into the sewer, and it's just this touching moment where, I'm like, okay, who the freak is this turtle? He's taking out all the bands, like the headbands of all the turtles and all their weapons, the katanas, the sais, the nunchucks, and the staff. And just says, I'm like, dude, that's crazy how all the turtles died, but from how even Master Splinter died, how? And there's one lone turtle. It is revealed at the end, it's Michelangelo. I'm like, this is perfect. My favorite character has gone dark. Has some of his characteristics, like as far as carelessness, but no cowabunga was mentioned. It was just, I'm meant for business, I'm here for blood. My thoughts on the book, Perfect 10 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoy it. Maybe I'm giving it a 10 because I love the Ninja Turtles, even though I haven't read the comic. This is the first comic I've read of the Ninja Turtles, but I thoroughly enjoyed it 100%. The issue shows an aged April waking up in her apartment bed and taking a tense trip down memory lane in a flashback to the night the Foot Clan began their final war against the Turtles. She recalls the start of the Turtles' downfall, which began on a night meant to be a celebration. Flashing back to April's apartment years in the past, April and Casey Jones prepare a meal for the Turtles and their master Splinter. It's a party to tell them the news that April and Casey are engaged to be married, but things immediately go wrong as Michelangelo bursts in, followed by Raphael and Donatello, who carries a mortally wounded Splinter. The trio of Turtles explain that they were ambushed by the Foot Clan immediately on leaving the sewers, with Splinter taking the brunt of the assault. Leonardo arrives moments later, explaining that he managed to fight off the remainder of the Foot Clan. He decides to take Splinter to get help from a doctor, but it's too late. Splinter passes away, stating that he knows the Foot Clan's attacked, breaking a long-standing truth with the Turtles because Shredder's daughter Karai sees it as her duty to end the feud between Shredder's Oroku clan and Shredder's Hamato clan in blood. The flashbacks are the most intriguing and tragic part of the story. As the title implies, Michelangelo is now the last Ronin, a masterless warrior who has also lost his brothers and his father. Mikey, who is often known as a jokester of the Turtles, and he's personally my favorite Ninja Turtle, is suffering from scars from both mental and physical. And from the way his brothers are haunting him, or at least always showing up in his past, those mental scars run deep. I mean, it's funny, it's cool that they're shadowy figures talking to him. Is he talking to himself? But those scars run deep. They're haunting him, or they're just forever there. This is portrayed with the shot back to present version of Mikey recovering April's home. He continues his conversation with his deceased brothers, which starts off quite peaceful, but a rage soon boils over in the ninja, much like the heated tea kettle he sets. It's clear Mikey still struggles to forgive Raphael for his hot-headedness. I mean, come on, that's what makes Raphael, right? His actions on the night of the Foot Clan's attack were the last straw, and they were revealed in the next few panels. Switching back to the past, Raphael runs off bloodily and mercilessly, fighting his way through dozens of Foot Clan ninja furiously as he shouts, "You ambushed my family! Killed my father! Only one way this ends!" Until he comes face to face with Karai. The two clash and Raphael drags her underwater. It seems he has the upper hand thanks to his amphibious mutation. However, Karai has one last trick up her sleeve, stabbing Raphael under his jaw and killing him instantly. She rises to the surface of the water as he sinks lifelessly below, his sides showing the full page descending in the deep red water. Back in the present of the last Ronin, Michelangelo and April catch up over breakfast. Though there's a gap in time in which Leonardo and Donatello die, that's not been spelled out on this page. It's spelled out in issue number 4. Mikey and April refer to an explosion that is apparently the cause of April's injury, which is her prosthetic arm and leg. They have a subtly tense conversation about how they're glad the other is still alive, despite everything, and Mikey's confusion over how he survived that fall years ago when it should have killed him. April then calls out the name Casey for breakfast, and Michelangelo is shocked that another old friend may still be alive, but it's not Casey. But Mikey is even more surprised that it's not April's now presumably dead past fiance who answers, but the young woman who found and rescued him at the end of the last Ronin issue number 1, Casey and April's daughter, Casey Maurice Jones. As Casey marvels at meeting a still living hero for her mother's stories, there is a lighthearted conversation between the two. Across town, Karai's son Hiroto, who is the current head of the Foot Clan and Mikey's target in the first issue, vows to kill every member of the Foot who fails to bring Michelangelo to him, ramping up the threat against Mikey, Casey, and the Resistance. Meanwhile, he tells Casey that they will fill Mikey in at a later time, but Casey continues to follow and question Michelangelo about himself and what's happened to him in the previous years. She's marveling at the fact that she might be able to stand side by side with the one and only Michelangelo. Casey explains to him that she studied numerous martial arts and is part of the resistance to the Foot Clan, and they want to help him on the mission to destroy the Foot. Asking if Casey's told April what she knows of this mission and how she was injured, she says she hasn't, but wants to know how he was able to survive. Mikey explains that after the loss of his family, he went into the wilderness to die. But rather than dying, his mutation progressed and adapted to survive, making him stronger and tougher, setting out to fight the Foot Clan. Michelangelo explains that he mastered every fighting style, contained in Splinter's old journal, including the weapons of his now dead brothers. Casey persists on letting her crew help Michelangelo in his mission to kill the last Oroku, and he tries to dissuade her from the desire to join his quest. But eventually, he accents, saying, "I can't decide if you're more like your mother or like your dad." But back in the old turtle's lair, April seems to have her secret of her own. In her quarters, she opens up a safe marked Salo and retrieves a metallic head Fugitoid, after which the issue comes to an end with the more anticipated for the next. Now, there's still some lingering questions that will be revealed in time with the next issues. Obviously, you can check out those issues on this channel, issues number 3 and 4. Issue number 5, I can't wait for that to come out. Explain the events that led us to April and Michelangelo's current state and the loss of all the mutant turtles that left Michelangelo to fight on his own for the honor of his family. In my personal opinion, it seems like April continues to be the rock of all this, but Michelangelo is the core. He's the heartbeat of all this. Though these days she lives more like a Ninja Turtle, Casey Marie established herself as an interesting character with the moxie and the intellect of her mom and need for physical justice just like her pops. Now, obviously, issue number 3 teases the fate of Casey Jones and Leonardo and the return of Fugitoid, and issue number 4 shows the death of Donatello and Master Splinter. Now, the last Ronin, issue number 2, keeps the energy and impactful punches of issue number 1 and is proving to be a bold, dark, and interesting tale within the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle world. I cannot wait for the final issue of this series to come out. We open with this with a flashback. The Foot Clan gathers up to raise up the grandson to Oroku Saki and son to Oroku Karai. Oroku Hiroto, Shredder's son, now swears his fealty to the Foot Clan. We now know it's been 10 years since his mother and Oroku Karai have been murdered by the mutants of the Hamato clan. And I'm pretty sure Raphael has something to do with the murder of his mother too, from issue number 2. Now, Oroku Hiroto wants to send an invitation to Hamato clan leadership in Master Splinter in New York. This ain't your typical invitation. Now, we see a little older Oroku Hiroto talking to his mother in her preservation to under comatose that he wants to remind the city who is master, and he wants it to broadcast to every part of the city like a sweet 16 birthday, except the real horrible sweet 16. He's not even 16 no more. So he broadcasts himself as a hologram in the center of the city, reminding the citizens that for 2 decades he's kept them safe and allowed them to prosper at will. His will alone decides the people's fate. Then he declares a monster is in the midst that attacked his sacred ground with terroristic mission. Any crimes committed against him is punishable by death, and demands every no stone be unturned. So every house, every person's crevice, every person's hiding spot is gonna be searched. Until further notice, the city is under martial law. This is screwed up, man. Anyone who helps the fugitive, the monster, will suffer a fate far worse than the fugitive. That's heavy, bro. In the underground, there's Mikey. He's reading Casey Marie's journal, impressed how she's book smart and street smart despite being just a kid. The other turtles, Mikey's brothers, despite being dead as a way of being haunted by their ghost or spirit, but not in a scary way, but just in conversation, start talking to him. He's talking to his dead brothers about Casey Marie, April's daughter, about helping fight Hiroto. They debate about it and speak of the devil. Casey Marie enters the room, sarcastically asking Mikey if it's a ninja thing to talk to themselves in the dark. Casey Marie tells Mikey that her mom wants to see him and she's going to check on her crew. Reading the dialogue between Casey and Mikey, Casey's got some spice to her, man. I like her. Mike comments she's too young to be that old. Mikey sees April in the lab and she has the head of a Fugitoid, which the past gets revisited. Fugitoid is preparing a flight, and Fugitoid explains to Donatello, disable the cloak as you get over the ocean to preserve the electrical charge before their flight. Splinter explains to Leonardo and Raphael that the strikers cannot appear to be in aggressive posture in New York, while they engage in peace talks with the Foot Clan. Even though it's in question if the parlay is legit, Splinter has honor and hope. Perhaps it could come time to finally close the book. So this peace treaty, okay, Splinter's given the benefit of the doubt. Splinter also adds that predecessors have honored many ancient traditions despite the clan's beef with one another. Oroku Hiroto is respectfully asking, so Splinter is respectfully obliging in good faith. But Splinter does add that our guard cannot be let down. Donatello and Splinter take off into flight. Strike Team gets ready to bust a move on Honeycomb since he no longer can be hide behind the mutants. Strike Team awaits orders, and his instruction is that the robot must remain intact. Strike Team asks for some drones up to top to make sure they're covered. Boom! Strike Team gets attacked by the Foot Clan. And what the freak kind of moment is this? It's like, I'm trying to get mine, and you guys are trying to get yours, but don't take us out. An all-out war breaks out. Mission was compromised. That's damn quick, yo. Leonardo is told that the sewer defenses have been compromised by the Foot Clan. Leo instructs to lock down the outer doors and take position to have every access point covered. Leonardo calls to ask for Casey's location. Casey's in a hangar with Mikey. They grab April and Honeycutt and get ready to head to Leo's way. They get ambushed by the Foot Clan. Boom, son! Turns out the second wave of Foot Clans look heavily armored and all hell breaks loose. They're getting attacked from every entryway. Fugitoid realizes this is Stockman's doing. He's found a way to track him. Casey gets with Leonardo and decides to take on the new and improved armored Foot Clan with his hockey stick. Turns out it was a terrible freaking mistake as it broke his hockey stick like nothing. This battle's getting insane as Stockman sends the entire drones to get that Fugitoid. I want my Fugitoid. Grab me that Fugitoid. Oh, Casey tries to fight the Foot Clan robot with a cricket stick instead. Turns out that ain't gonna work, bruh. This is going sideways. This battle is just going up against him. Casey picks up a sledgehammer, and that seems to do the trick with these robots. That knocks the head clean off the robot's body. At this point, we see Leo, Casey, and Mikey holding the lines as April gets Honeycutt into the safe room. But Stockman sent his entire drone robots that is too many for Leo and Casey to handle. But they're going to do their best to hold this line as long as possibly can. Leo tells Mike to get everyone clear and get the word to Donnie and Splinter Sensei. Honeycutt tells Stockman that he'll self-destruct before I let you hurt my friends and imprison me again. Stockman responds, well, if I can't have you, then no one can. Then Stockman initiates a self-destruct explosion on all the drones that creates this powerful and deadly explosion that just takes off. Like, it looks like it's an insane amount of explosion that we can only assume that took the lives of Casey and Leo. We later see Casey's masks and Leo's sword pierced into the ground. Meanwhile, back in present time, Casey sees all hell is breaking loose and everyone's panicking like a subway blackout, but without the blackout. As Casey makes her way through the surface, she runs into her crew, and the crew tells her that this martial law could bring down the whole damn resistance. Hope your mutant friend was worth it. While she's figuring out what to do, she gets interrupted by freaking tank. What the freak is going on here? They ask to stop and identify themselves. Casey and crew tells the soldiers, hell no, and they fight these guys off and they split up. Casey tells the crew to stay underground and stay in communication. Watch your back and meet at the lair in an hour. Casey has to get back to April and inform her what the heck is going on the surface. This comic book is taking you on a hell of a ride. Back in the lab though, with April, Mikey is bitching about being poked with the needle. Come on, Mikey. Turns out Mikey has advanced mutation as he ages. He's healing faster and becoming stronger as he ages. Mike asks April how badly damaged his Honeycutt, and if he's still in there, and April says she doesn't know and hopes so. April's also pretty certain how Stockman found them last time was by hacking the security firewalls and the Fugitoid had developed to keep them hidden during the war. So reactivating the Fugitoid is like blasting another come kill us now signal to the bad guys. Mikey asks after the explosion, how did he end up here? April has a flashback, and this book is starting to get real juicy with the character building and these character moments. After the explosion, when the smoke cleared, a rescue team pulled her out of the rubble. She woke up a week later to find out that her husband and friends died in that explosion. And surprise, she was pregnant. Oh man. She stayed in the hospital for a long time and she didn't know what was harder, the physical or the mental therapy. When April was finally discharged, she had a shiny new arm and leg and baby to go along with them. Things were so bad in the city from Hiroto and the Foot Clan taking over that she moved down to the lair, or more like Kid, because it was okay. She has to protect her baby, man. I mean, what do you expect? Present time, Mikey asked April how she got Fugitoid's head. She said some of Leo and Casey's strike team who weren't killed in the battle recovered it. Mikey asked where are those guys now? April tells him most of them died during fighting Hiroto's forces when he took over. The few that are left commanding underground resistance units in other parts of the city. April tells Mikey that Casey Marie shared with her about Mikey's training in Asia and Europe. Mikey's memory is foggy, and his flashback is the explosion knocked him back halfway across the neighborhood and unconscious. He doesn't have any clue how long he was out. Mikey went to the store and figured everyone was gone, so there was no way no one could have survived that explosion. Still hazy and not thinking clearly, Mikey found his way into the sewers and into the lair. He tried calling Donnie and Splurring to warn him. Nothing. He was desperate, wanting to save him. So he grabbed some weapons and other stuff and hopped on a stowaway plane to Japan in hopes of reaching him. This is an amazing freaking book. And all these events, I can see how this hardened up Mikey. Mikey didn't know what else to do. April consoles him and tells him, Mikey, it's not your fault, so don't put it on you like that. Don't bring all that weight on yourself. April said they called it survivor's guilt, and she had plenty of it after the explosion. It took a while, but lots of therapy and tears to accept that nothing she could have done to help change anything. I mean, it's tough to fathom, but I totally get it. April then tells Mikey she thinks she knows how to beat Hiroto. Casey Marie enters the room and tells her mom, then you need to show us right now, Mom, because all hell is breaking loose and everything. Casey and crew made it back safely to the lair. Okay, good to know. This page right here shows how crazy Hiroto is, standing on top of what we can only assume is the tallest building in New York. This really highlights how crazy this mofo is. I'll save some of these pages for your sake of enjoying the comic if you guys do decide to get the comic. But there is a huge debate about, on this page, there's a huge debate about attacking Baxter and waking up the Fugitoid to help knock out Baxter's tech. This is a very intense and desperate argument here between April, Mikey, and Casey Jones. Not to mention, Mikey views Casey Jones as a kid, and she is a kid, and he doesn't want to involve her in this battle. Let's not forget that the Turtles were teenagers when they received their training. Not to say Mikey has a point or the teenagers need to be in this kind of battle. This story highlights a situation that is high risk, desperate, and all parties need to have all hands on deck. Hope I explained myself. What April shows Mikey, Donnie would definitely approve and probably turtle turn himself on when he sees this stuff. It's just a little something to help even the odds, and this book is freaking insane. We start this issue off with Mikey along with April's daughter Casey attacking Dr. Baxter Stockman's base of operations in order to use the head of the Fugitoid, Honeycutt, to regain some control over New York City. Mikey tells April over the intercom that this attack was a bad idea. Casey suggests that they can take out the tower guns up above. Mikey tells her he'll find another way and to wait for his signal. You can tell this is just an onslaught and coming at this crew head on, who are already heavily armored and gunned. I can see what Mikey was saying, but he's just got to see it through. He gives Casey the signal. Casey commands the crew to focus the fire on the two tower guns. This Ninja Turtle, the last Ronin, is laser focused with the utmost of willpower to not die here. He also has to utter that this is a stupid plan. Mikey is slicing these robots with ease. Baxter gives the order to eliminate them now. This enormous metal of a robot, Mikey handles the business, and you can see he's kind of enjoying it. Perhaps getting a little too cocky? Despite the plan being stupid, but our boy has to see it through. Casey comes in on the battle despite Mikey's order was to stay put. He tells her terrible discipline, but excellent initiative, and not to do it again. Yes, Sensei, says Casey. We get a flashback of the past. Not sure how far back. Casey's going through training. Her technique's decent, but she's got some bad habits. Mikey's brothers are in the back commenting that within 10 years of training, she can do some real damage, but they don't have 10 years. Dead Donatello wonders why she cut her hair. Mikey, being battle hardened and given the situation of what's going on now, decides to test her out and give her a crash course, so to speak. When Mikey comes in her presence, she makes a comment that she didn't hear him come in. Sneaky ninja. He reminds her. He asks her if she fought anyone skilled with that garbage. That strikes a nerve with Casey. Michael doubles down and calls her a child pretending to be a warrior. That'll do it. She goes in with full aggression. She tries her best, and giving 100% effort, Mikey effortlessly dodges and mocks her attacks. He calls her legs weak and her fists slow. He warns her not to get up after he puts her down. But I personally believe he wants to test her will to the fullest extent. She goes in and she goes ham. He calls her kick white belt quality, then lands another blow that he blocks and upgrades into a yellow belt. He tells her nice push, and if she has anything to do to back it up with. This angers Casey and she goes in harder, tiring herself out. He ends training telling her that she's done and to feel free to think how she could have done this differently. The lesson he gives her is that even with the greatest of warriors can't punch their way out of every confrontation. Sometimes it pays to be subtle, fluid, and elusive, avoiding strikes and let your enemy wear themselves out. Mikey opens up to Casey. Despite not knowing each other, she's practically family. That's what he tells her. He's willing to take her under his wing. The condition is his way or the highway. She hugs him and training starts first thing the next day. He jokes with her to get a haircut as a way to bring levity to the situation. She seems to find it funny. Mikey later feels it was an idiot thing to say. He may be battle hardened, but there's a little bit of goofy Mikey in there. April sneaks in and tells Mikey that Splinter would have been very proud of him. He's surprised by this. Funny how a ninja got snuck up on. Mikey apologizes if he overstepped his bounds to April. She tells him that what he did is more than what she could ever have hoped for. Cowabunga, Mikey. She further explains that Casey Marie only had her. She's tough like her dad and smart like April. But she needs something more like a place to direct her skills. Splinter was there for all of his sons and everyone he thought of as family, so she thanks Mikey and asks him to tell her what happened in Japan. Mikey tells a story. Once he landed, he made his way out of the airport without being seen and headed for the countryside clan Hamato. He didn't have much to go on but a crappy map and Splinter's story. All he knew is that that's where he would find Donnie and Splinter and he had to move fast. The snow was blinding and he was ready to give up until he saw lights in the distance, a nearby town. Suddenly, he was surrounded by samurai warriors. Mikey told him he is Michelangelo's son of Master Splinter. They grunted and pointed towards the village. One of the elders, Master Shinichiro, if I'm saying it right, was waiting for him at the compound. Mikey told him who he was and why he was there. He was desperate for answers and he went against all proper decorum Master Splinter had taught him over the years, and understandably so, he was desperate for answers. He proceeds to tell the story. Splinter and Donatello landed in Japan and are greeted by Shinichiro. It's been far too long since they got together, but there will be time for that once they conclude their business at hand, Shinichiro tells Splinter and Donatello. They arrive at the graveyard and immediately Splinter and Donnie get suspicious. Splinter hopes Oroku Hiyoto, Shredder's grandson, chose this place out of ignorance and not malice. As stated by Master Shinichiro, there were no signs of deception from the Foot Clan. They get grief from Ambassador Hara of the Foot Clan and reminded Master Hiroto sends his warmest wishes. If you say so, bruh. Splinter confirms if Master would be leading the peace negotiation. He answers not at all and reassures them that Master Hiroto is overseeing the final preparations for the grand feast once an agreement is concluded. He's probably on his way here now for a proper greeting upon completion of the ceremony. He tells them that they are armed and it goes against the conditions of the gathering. Splinter wisely responds with truth, that it's ceremonial decorations, along with not recalling agreeing to be unarmed and those terms. Things still seem cool with the splash of sus. Ambassador Hart offers to conclude business and negotiate peace before Master Hiroto arrives. Splinter prefers to wait. He pushes a little and tries to hit Splinter with, "We are humble servants of our master." Master Splinter kindly responds with, "We are also humble servants too, but this war lasted generations. A few more minutes will not matter." Well, the big bad mofo arrives on his high horse and he arrives with hostility and petty. He calls them fools and makes fun of how easy it was to get him here. He tells them it was a waste of your life and calls Donatello a mutant spawn and Splinter rodents. Listen, man, Splinter don't play. He decapitates 3 heads with one swipe of his ceremonial decoration. He tells Hiroto, Shredder's grandson, while he still breathes, he will refer to him as Master Splinter. Where's my respect, son? The battle begins. Time to pay in blood, and Master Splinter tells Donatello to make them pay in blood. Shredder's grandson is on the level of crazy. Crazier than this battle because even Master Splinter acknowledges that Shredder's predecessors always acted with honor. Time to teach this upstart a lesson. Donnie is definitely showing no mercy by sticking a stick in the Foot Clan's eye, and this battle is comic book epic on all levels. Splinter is cutting his path to get to their master. These Foot Clan dudes lack discipline in this fight, but they do not lack in number. Skill will decide today's outcome. Hiroto is not pleased with this battle taking too long. He has no patience for this. He provokes Master Splinter some more by calling him rats, rodent, and everyone he's ever known to love in New York is dead. That hits a spot with him. Splinter calls him out, face him like a true warrior. He invites him to die at this blade like his grandfather did. That grandfather being Master Shredder. and this pisses him off. Donnie thinks they should fall back and regroup because the archers are about to launch. Hiroto's commanders tell him to pull back too, but in the heat of the battle, he wants to exterminate the filthy rodent. His words, not mine. I got respect for Master Splinter, yo. Another warning is said out loud to Splinter and Donnie to retreat as the battle is no longer theirs to win. Let's live to fight another day. Master Splinter's determined not to let him escape, and he traveled too far and too long to not get his ass on a ceremonial decoration on his blade. Turns out, it's a trap, and they fire the archers as Splinter charges to Hiroto. He throws his blade to Hiroto and impales him in his chest. Nice shot. But the archer makes an impact on Donnie and Master Splinter too. Lots of archers, lots of arrows. So that's how it went down. I am not disappointed at all, and this was awesome. Sad and great storytelling, compelling visual. Shinichiro proceeds to tell Mikey that they couldn't have saved Donatello and that the damage was done. Mike has his answer, and now he officially knows that he is alone, the last Ronin. Mikey was offered to stay, but he couldn't because seeing all those warriors reminded him of everything he lost. He respectfully declined. He knows he has to honor and avenge his family for being the last Ronin. The feud must end and Mikey will complete the mission. All Oroku must perish. April has a moment and they dialogue a little bit. April tells Mikey that Casey has taken to him, and she is amazed that she witnessed that. This is where it gets really interesting because Mikey knows that it was by design. He confronts April and Casey's extra special abilities and asks if she was going to tell him about them. He asks her if she injected her with the mutagen. April angrily denies it and tells Mikey, "You know me better than that. I will not ever inject my own kid." Turns out, we ran thousands of tests and the mutagen DNA were passed down from her from birth parents who happens to have a lifelong exposure to it from hanging out with you guys, the turtles. Mikey's surprised to hear this. Casey's normal in other aspects other than strength, speed, and her healing abilities, all which have increased with age. And same thing with Mikey, his abilities have increased and gotten better with age. Wine, right? April tells him that she's aware that she's different, but she hasn't told her everything. They agree to keep it between them. Then it goes back to present day and how they plan to Stockman's fortress of a base. And I love how it goes back and forth where they talk about the plan and then it goes back into the battle. They talk about the plan and it shows how they, carried it out in battle. Mikey does go into why he thought the plan was stupid, and it shows his honor and his character too. I got to leave a little meat on the bone in case you guys decide to purchase the issue, which you will not regret, by the way. Link in description, as I prefer you purchase from RatedComics. This is one of those comic books. I gave away 75% of the book, and this is definitely a classic in my opinion to own. And this is probably, with the way this issue is going, this could be the Breaking Bad of comic book. This is just a really epic comic book issue. The real meat from this issue comes from the Splinter and Donatello flashbacks, where we learn how the wise old master and last remaining son, other than Mikey, Donatello, met their end at the hands of Oroku Hiroto, aka Shredder's grandson. That story in itself is worth the cost of this comic book alone. It's pretty insane. Stereotypical old school samurai movie style action with an appropriately tragic and honorable warrior's end for Splinter and his son. Once again, that is in itself worth the price of the comic. The rest of the comic is great too, but that right there is the real meat of the comic. Do I even have to say it? This series could go quite down possibly as a true masterpiece among Turtles media. Every issue has continued to knock it out the park, and this is far from an exception to that. We get so much done here, wrapping up more and more loose threads as we draw close to an end of this dark future tale. Though with most mysteries answered and a chunk of the city back under the control of the rebels, there's still the final confrontation between the last of the Turtles and the legacy of Shredder yet to come, and I cannot wait. Not to mention, the tank that April reveals in the previous issue does get used in here. When you read the comic in completion, the battle is won but the war is not over, and what is the price of victory and are they willing to pay for it? This is fantastic and I cannot emphasize it enough. And not to mention the plan to get Honeycutt's head and then place it in order to get control of the city. Oh my god, this is just very ambitious storytelling. I can't say no more about it. With that being said, TMNT, The Last Ronin. What you guys think of it? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't gotten a copy of your issue, which I encourage you to, wherever you can get it from, preferably RatedComics website, link in description, go ahead and get your copy. You will not regret this to your comic book collection or just a casual read for entertainment. We begin this issue with Michelangelo, the last remaining turtle, arguing with the ghost of his three brothers as to what the next plan of attack against the sinister Oroku Hiroto should be. Grappling with his own survivor's remorse, as much as he is with the burden of exacting revenge against his family's murderer, Mikey stares at his father's diary. Raphael tells Mikey, "I knew you weren't strong enough to handle this. Never were. Wait to let us all down, Mikey." These are all manifestations of his mind, but if Mikey had his way, he would love to bring Raphael back just to kill him again. I mean, not really, but you know, that's what he's going through right now. Mikey is ready to finish this and end this insanity once and for all, and all these voices in his head of his brothers constantly telling him that he's not good enough. He knows what needs to be done. He looks at Splinter's journal again, shuts it, and goes to end this once and for all. In this panel right here, everything is broken out into chaos. The streets, not the roof, is on fire. This was not the rebellion Casey Marie was hoping for. She was expecting people to pick up some arms and join the fight, not loot the streets. While trying to recruit as many people as possible to join arms and not loot, they just got comms that Hiroto, Shredder's grandson, is still on the high ground, and the power outage is causing floodings in the sewers, which jeopardizes the Laird and her mother. Meanwhile, Hiroto is pissed. No one can get a hold of Stockman, and the city will be trying to claw their way in there any minute. This is the weakest the Foot Clan has ever been. He is a complete sociopath, and he believes he's a god. He commands that all his soldiers go on full tactical alert, have to guard the guard in this level, and the other half to crush the rebels. No mercy. And one way or another, this is going to end. He demands his armor because he is going to hunt and kill a mutant. Mikey looks in the distance like, bruh, you know I'm coming. Down in the sewers, Casey goes looking for her mother and Sensei Mikey. She notices his journal and she believes he just wouldn't leave it lying around. Casey locates her mom as she tries to knock out the water pumps to stop the flooding. Casey asks for Mikey and punches a wall when she finds out from April that Mikey's gone. April tells her daughter that she doesn't want her to hurt herself. Will I say, Casey? I just punched through a wall. She's aware that she knows for a long time that she's a mutant. April reluctantly admits to her that her and her father's exposure to mutagen changed Casey's DNA by hanging around with the turtles. DNA when April was pregnant with her. Any child would probably do this. I mean, she was upset with her mother for not telling her sooner about this, and she asked if April was ever going to tell her and when she was going to tell her. April doesn't have a clear answer for that because she didn't know if or when would be the right time. April tells Casey that Mikey has trained his entire life for this and he's going to finish this. Casey puts on her mask, if you will, and she goes to locate Mikey because Mikey's gonna need some help and Casey wants to do this. Inside the building, Mikey places thermite grenades that are well placed inside the building to create a diversion to make his way to the upper level so he can have some Hiroto ass on the revenge plate. When the explosive diversion happens, it shakes the entire building. Hiroto knows he's coming. Fight or flight, and Mikey wishes Hiroto would choose fight. Mikey is surprised that there is no mindless robot assassins, just some Foot Clans who lost their edge and loyalty as he wipes the floor with them. Stockman, not policing them, will do that, you know? All these bodies laying there as Mikey makes his way to serve that revenge dish to Hiroto. As Mikey approaches a door that holds Hiroto, a giant knight is guarding it. Let's see what the boys got, says Mikey. Well, not exactly those words, but you guys get it. He throws a couple grenades at him for theatrics. Hard for the knight to strike when he's deaf and blind. Then he throws another blast to open the door. Mikey throws down with the knight. He is quicker than Mikey had thought and too dangerous for him to fight at a distance because he's so large. Mikey gets close and personal to end this. Now it's time for the real fight. Hiroto says, Mikey, I'm here. What are you waiting for? Before he can get to Hiroto, the last line of defense are these crows. They're synthetic and controlled by a separate control system for Stockman. He sets off an EMP blast to take him out. Then an old school robot ambushes Mikey, which inflicted some pain on him. Mikey delivers a bigger blow by impaling his midsection using the giant knight sword. To put that robot out of his misery, now it's time to face off with a Hiroto. Like a man, he says. Like a child, Hiroto asks Mikey from the shadows, which one are you? All of you look the same to me, dead or alive. Dead or alive, this ends tonight. Your family's bloodline ends tonight, says Mikey. He's armored up as he looks at his mother in the capsule. Hiroto admits that he always hated his mother and he only kept her alive out of spite, just for her to witness all that he's conquered. He strikes the capsule with his mother inside. Mikey is unfazed by this and tells him, at least your mother had honor. You ready to do this or what? He responds with, he didn't get dressed up for nothing. Let's begin the end. They go at it revenge style. Mikey realizes that his suit is liquid metal and that he can manipulate like nano carbide or something. Think of it like Tony Stark's nanotech armor from Avengers Infinity War. Hiroto can make it solid in order to strike with his fist and blades. He has to steer clear of those, and Mikey is fighting more on the defense than on the offense. The fires are getting bigger and harder to breathe with all that toxic smoke. Not to mention Hiroto's anger is growing, and Mikey can use that to his advantage. He does that by calling him Mama's Boy to provoke his anger and to get him to slip up. A giant explosion happens from the tower during their epic battle, and the two of them go flying out the window. Meanwhile, in the sewers, April and Casey are still figuring out how to get to the main pump to stop the flooding. Mikey and Hiroto continue to fall while they both try to inflict damage on one another. Casey really wants to help Mikey as she witnesses the tower going up in flames, but she is needed elsewhere to help and to find her mom. Otherwise, there won't be anything left in this city. Mikey notices that with all this falling, there is barely a scratch on his armor, and he needs to find that soft, beautiful weak spot in his armor. They fall through a water tower reserve. Hiroto's armor shows no sign of damage, and Mikey needs to desperately find something. A small glimmer of hope. There is a scratch on his armor, but Hiroto armor self-repairs the scratch, and Mikey has to find another freaking way. Mikey provokes him again to see if he can find an opening. You were about to do something stupid, says Mikey, hoping that will give him the opening that he needs. He comes in with the heat and smoke that Mikey wasn't expecting. His attacks are quicker and more aggressive. While the fight is still going on, we see that Casey wants to desperately help Mikey. She can't, because she has to swim underwater to get to the main pumps to save people and locate her mom. Mikey has to handle this on his own, but this is exactly what he wanted. Hiroto is keeping the heat on Mike. He attacks more aggressively. He knows Mikey is hurt, but Mikey has to keep his distance and choose the right time to strike. The fall earlier through the water tower did damage to Mikey as he is practically moving at half speed. Hiroto knows this and he takes full advantage by landing a blow to his face. Mikey creates an opening by releasing a charge on his hand to create an opening. He then impales his hand with the side, yelling, "A gift from Raphael." That had to have it be a feel-good moment. Really good to say that. He removes the side from his hand and mocks Mikey, but he is also distracted when he sees his tower explode in flames. He takes his eyes off of Mikey, which is a no-no in combat. Knocks him upside his head. Now Mikey is the aggressor as Hiroto's armor is busted up and he impales him with Leonardo's katana. This one's courtesy of Leonardo. Hiroto yells and tells Mikey that he's won. Mikey doesn't want to hear that as he picks up his sewer's grate to finish him off, Mortal Kombat style. But his guard is down as Hiroto slices Mikey's midsection. This could be fatal. He's going to bleed out. Hiroto removes Leonardo's sword from his stomach, and not only does the armor self-repair, it also heals Hiroto's wound as well. Mikey uses the Donnie staff to break right over his head. Donatello sends his regards, says Mikey. Mikey goes underground to stop the bleeding and to catch his breath. Hiroto goes underground to the sewers as well and mocks him again for running and hiding in the sewers. Yeah, who's running, says Mikey, and nunchucks him in the head. While the fight is going on, April and Casey are underwater to stop the flooding. As Casey is running out of air, rocks are falling everywhere. April gets an extra kick of adrenaline or something like that and finally turns the switch for the flood to end. April and Casey get themselves together. They share a tender moment that Casey didn't want to lose her mother, and she's glad that she's found her. April's like, it's okay, and fixing up broken things is what I do. Speaking of which, Mikey has no clue about it, but she injected a tracker in Mikey when she drew blood from him. She meant to tell Casey that, but she ran off before she can say anything. Casey goes to locate Mikey. Hiroto's armor is failing him, and Mikey has to end this before his body ends him. They emerge out of the sewer system as the water is let out. Head spinning and guts leaking,
Mikey can barely stand. Mikey realizes this is a one-way ticket, but he does intend on not taking that trip alone. This mud hole will be your grave, says Mikey. He lands blow after blow on him. Hiroto still feels that he's a god and immortal. He activates a failsafe to emit an intense amount electrical surge. They both go down, and this is their end. Fortunate for Hiroto, but unfortunate for Mikey. Casey locates Mikey and begs Mikey not to leave her. She brought the journal and shows it to Mikey, reminding Mikey that he promised to teach her and he can't go. It's just not fair. Mikey apologizes to Casey, but it was his duty to fulfill his destiny for his family. Casey pleads to Mikey that she is his family. Mikey is her family. He agrees and ends with that his father's journal is left for her and it will teach her all that he knew. But the last lesson is the most important lesson, and he opens the last page of the journal as it states, no peace. Mikey is at peace as April and Casey say goodbye to their friends as he took his last breath. The death of the last Ronin. I enjoy this ending as Mikey wakes up reunited with his brothers and Master Splinter and Casey Jones, ready to conquer the day as they head out into the sunset. This has to be like heaven to Mikey as he lived long enough to avenge his father's death. Sorry, I meant to say family's death. My apologies. In this epilogue, we see Casey Marie continuing her training, wishing Michelangelo was here with her to see how far she's come. She goes to the lab where her mother is there, running tests trying to understand the mutagen inside of her. We end this series with Casey Marie telling 4 baby turtles to hurry up and grow as she's got so much to teach them. And that's where we end this series and the conclusion of The Last Ronin. I personally feel this has to be made into a freaking movie. I mean, the creative team on this book deserves a lot of praise. This has to be a movie. The scenes with the brothers arguing particularly truly came to life, and it's truly a testament to how far Michelangelo has come as The Last Ronin. I believe this is a satisfying conclusion to what is quite possibly the most intriguing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story by any means, as far as I've read. And again, I'm new to comics, just barely a year into comics. The first video you see this channel, which is a King in Black review, that was the first time I read a comic book in probably 30 years, if not more. Gosh, I feel old saying that. I feel the weight between the issues may have been a disservice to the story. Reading it all the way through in a single sitting is probably a better way to do this book justice. Great artwork, action, and the heartbeat of The Last Ronin is unmistakably the Michelangelo. Link in description if you wish to add this comic book to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. This is a classic in my personal opinion. Last Ronin, issue number 5. What do you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you like the content we're throwing up, you know what to do. Don't be shy and don't be stingy. Here at Rated Comics, we do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.